knowledge and the wisdom of the gods. I suspect that that's what we're looking at Nazca as well. The same fingerprint of the same lost civilization and the same lost science.
So if the Nazcans couldn't fly, what is the purpose of all these creations? Eric von Daniken thinks he has found an answer. His theory is that spaceships landed, leaving marks on the desert floor when they returned into the sky. When the natives wanted them to come back generation after generation, they recreated these lines in tribal ritual, even though the initial visit may have fallen into a semi-forgotten past. There is one more clue that the ancient Nazcans may have had a close encounter with extraterrestrials. The figure of El Astronauto has watched the skies over Nazca for over 3,000 years. Could this strange-looking image be linked to a primitive but friendly society and their unearthly visitors? To von Daniken, only if extraterrestrials return to Nazca will the mystery of these lines and figures finally be solved. If some kind of flying machine or Vimana did visit the Earth in ancient times, one can imagine the terror some people may have felt in their presence. In Turkey, the eerie landscape is dotted with hundreds of small caves in the soft volcanic rock. But the real mystery of this region can't be seen above ground. Perhaps 2,500 years ago, elaborate cities were carved deep under the earth. Were these intricate maze-like settlements a primitive air raid shelter to protect the citizens from airborne enemies?
There are caves and chambers all over.
One of these cities descends 40 meters underground, through as many as 18 stories. This is just one of nearly 200 subterranean cities in the region. Perhaps 30,000 people once lived in them. A tunnel, 12 kilometers long, linked two cities together. Experts say the underground cities have been used for many different purposes over the last 2,500 years. Eric von Daniken wonders why generation after generation sought refuge beneath the earth. If fleeing an invading army or religious persecution, frightened citizens could have hid in the mountains above ground. Why did people burrow a labyrinth of subterranean chambers underground? What was the true purpose of these cities?
These people were hiding out, afraid of some enemy. But all this doesn't make sense. Any enemy could simply come in here, or they were sitting in a trap. It must have been an airborne enemy. An enemy from the sky.
From Stonehenge in England to hundreds of other sites throughout Europe, Asia and the Americas, there are ancient structures made from giant stones called megaliths.
At least 7,000 years ago, our ancestors created thousands and thousands of stones, and they arranged them in lines, straight lines for miles and miles.
They loom like giant soldiers, marching in formation to the sea. These are the megaliths of Karnak in Brittany.
There is a great deal of controversy about the age of these menhirs in Brittany. Here, we finally have some proof. These stones go into the water and underwater. In fact, there is a whole stone circle underwater. This finally proves that the stones were here before the water was here. And that was 8 to 10,000 years ago. Now this is the largest megalith ever moved in ancient Europe. It's man-made, cut, as you can see. Once the whole piece was over 60 feet and its weight was 350 tons.
If these giant stones were moved and arranged 7,000 years ago, they would be among the oldest creations on the planet. But were they created by human beings? At that time in human history, our ancestors were still hunters, struggling daily for survival. Their tools were primitive, and the wheel had not yet been invented. How were these thousands of stones transported, and what was their purpose?
Until today, archaeology has no answer for this mystery. Well, since we have computer technology and since we know how to fly, we might have an answer.
Eric von Daniken reveals his theory that, based on aerial reconnaissance, the builders of these alignments had a sophisticated understanding of geometry, triangulation, and Pythagoras theory. But these stones were arranged 4,000 years or more before the Greeks supposedly invented geometry. Eric von Daniken wonders who taught the megalithic builders such knowledge. He believes that extraterrestrials came to Earth and encoded a message in the stones of Karnak. What is this message? We just don't know. At the bottom of the world, in a land frozen in perpetual ice, von Daniken believes there's more startling evidence that beings from another world left their mark on the Earth. In 1531, Orontius Phineus drew this map of Antarctica, but Antarctica was not discovered by man until about 250 years later in 1773. How could Orontius Phineus map a continent which didn't officially exist?
Antarctica is the one continent on the face of the Earth that is truly lost. It is buried beneath 2 miles of ice, and we have absolutely no idea what lies underneath the ice. The existence of these ancient maps that show us Antarctica deglaciated is, in my view, an invitation to a great deal of research to what may lie beneath that ice, possibly the lost continent that is spoken of in all the myths and traditions of mankind, the home perhaps of a great lost civilization.
What is even more mysterious than Phineus knowing about a continent that hadn't been discovered is that Phineus appears to know what Antarctica looked like before it was covered with ice, and that was over 100,000 years ago. How could he have known the continent's shape before it was frozen under a mass of ice?
The plain fact of the matter is that hundreds of such anomalous maps exist, which show Antarctica in fantastic detail, and sometimes actually as it looks underneath the ice that now covers it. We've only known how the subglacial topography of Antarctica looks since the 1950s, when seismic surveys were taken across the ice cap. These ancient maps show us a deglaciated Antarctica. There's a huge mystery here which scholars are not addressing, and it cannot be ascribed to coincidence.
We are left to consider profound questions. Questions which force us to re-examine our ancient history. Eric von Daniken believes Orontius Phineus drew his map based on an even older source map created by gods. Only visitors from the sky, von Daniken maintains, had the sophisticated technology necessary to see through the ice to chart the landmass below. We don't know, but this map could be evidence that our planet was once surveyed from the air by beings from another world.
This is the temple of Osiris in Abydos, in Central Egypt. one of the most mysterious gifts has come down from heaven to earth. It is the so-called jet pillar. It has been suggested that it could be a symbol of fertility, or maybe a symbol of eternity, but also a symbol of power. What power? Do they maybe mean electricity?
Eric believes the Jed pillar could have been used as some kind of electrical insulator, similar to the ones at the top of modern pylons. But did the Egyptians have a way to generate electricity in the first place? According to von Daniken, a strange, metal-lined vessel was found not far from central Egypt. From the outside, this exact replica looks like an ordinary clay jar. But when von Daniken pours in a common acidic liquid like vinegar, this strange jar generates electricity like a battery. Now von Daniken searches for the ways that the ancient Egyptians might have used this electricity. In the basement of the Temple of Dendera in southern Egypt, his investigation uncovers a possible answer.
In this basement, there were different crypts, and in one of these crypts, we have fantastic reliefs on the wall.
Von Daniken thinks something can be seen that may look like a cord which leads to a socket. Attached to the socket might be some kind of filament, and on the outside is a transparent bubble. Could this be an image of an ancient Egyptian light bulb? Von Daniken and his colleagues decided to test this hypothesis in the laboratory.
We made a model of this electric bulb exactly in the same measurement. Would it work? Would it function? And it functioned. It works.